What up, childrens? Old man shouting at clouds. Topic of today's conversation: emotions versus intellect. That might be slightly bad wording, but we're gonna go with it. It's what the idea is and what motivated me on this. I've been listening to a few podcasts that have touched on this topic from different angles. Sometimes it's viewed through the lens of politics. Sometimes it's viewed through the lens of relationships, but I think it's just a really, really important topic. And one of the podcasts I was listening to brought it up in like the best possible way. It was like nobody really has to teach a cat how to be a cat or how to be like good at being a cat. They just kind of know. They just kind of figure it out. But humans are really bad at being humans when we first come into this world. So like we have a whole bunch of tendencies that if we give in to them actually make our lives significantly more difficult than they need to be. And one of those tendencies is and this is a common theme, but man, you'll see it at work, you'll see it in relationships, you'll see it in the way friends interact with each other, couples interact with each other, parents interact with kids, kids interact with parents, teachers interact with students, coaches interact with players, players interact with coaches. It's a common theme you'll see everywhere. We're really, really bad at communicating sometimes. And I think the biggest trend I've seen, both personally and professionally in this, is talking past each other when one person is speaking from intellect and the other is speaking from emotion. And I've been guilty of this a number of times where I'm often bad at recognizing when people are coming from a place of emotionality rather than cold calculating logic. And I haven't always been this way, but I would say more over the last few years, I've leaned more towards logic, facts, like the old facts don't care about your feelings thing. This is just cold light of day, what's really happening and what isn't. And I felt like for a long time, I'm like, that's all I should need is just the facts, please. Like, if Ben Shapiro ran the world, that's how it would be. And the reality is, you can think that, but the rest of humanity is not going to follow because we are emotional beings. And we do get in our feelings. And when we're in our feelings, we do care about, or we care very little about facts. So figuring that that's the case, figuring that out is super important. You have to recognize it, because otherwise your engagements with other humans are going to be incredibly frustrating, because you're sitting there and laying things out. And you're like, I don't get why I'm getting pushback on this. These are just the facts. Why is somebody arguing with me? Why can't I seem to convince them? Like, I've laid out the argument. I've cited my sources. Why aren't they jumping on board? Because they're in their emotions. You're speaking facts. It's like trying to argue with someone who only speaks English in Spanish. Like, you could be saying everything that's completely accurate, and that message will not be received by them because you're just speaking the wrong language. So now this is unfortunate for me, because living in the feelings realm is not the strength of mine. I don't excel at that. And it shows up whenever I'm having a discussion with somebody who's very much in their feelings, particularly if we're not on the same page. And I just have always been like, well, okay, well, here's why you're wrong. From my perspective. Or sometimes like I do genuinely have the right of it, but for all the good it does me, it doesn't matter, because there's no convincing them in that moment. And the reality is, as frustrating as this is, if you're wired like me, it's because that ain't the moment. Like, I know it might be inconvenient for you. It might be frustrating for you. But when somebody else is in their feelings, that is probably not the time to try to convince them of anything. Okay? So one of the podcasts I listened to, it was giving giving an example, and the guy said that his friend had just recently lost his job. And so instead of going to that friend and being like, you're going to be fine, like 87% of people who lose their job find another job within 2 months. You'll be fine. You're worrying about something. You're being dramatic. You shouldn't be doing that. Instead of doing that, he's like, I just sat in the mud with them for 5 minutes. I didn't ask them if they wanted a solution. I didn't ask them if they wanted a suggestion. I just sat with them and was like, man, that hurts. That really sucks, doesn't it? And then they came out of it, and a day or two later, they're like, hey, could you give me some advice on this? And then they were ready to hear it. But in that moment, if he had just gone to them and be like, pull yourself up, like, you're fine, it's okay, people lose jobs all the time, it's not the end of the world, that message probably would not have been well received, because that person just wasn't ready for it yet. Doesn't mean they'll never be ready for it. They're just not ready now. And I see this all the time in politics. Like, politics is probably the worst place for it, where it's like everyone's in their feelings and all we're doing is like shouting at each other. Like, we got our hands clasped tightly over our ears. We're not listening to anything, and we're just screaming at everybody else, expecting them to be doing something different, right? They should be listening to us, but we're not listening to them. And boy, is it hard right now. It's hard to have some compassion. It's hard to listen, because we are very divided in this country politically right now. Very, very, probably the worst I have ever seen in my lifetime. And so it's going to take some dedication and commitment, and it's going to take some people doing something that makes them incredibly uncomfortable to change that dynamic. But it's, as far as I can tell, it's not optional. It's essential at this point that we do that. And I see this in relationships too. Like, I see a lot of people that I've talked to that, are they going through true marital issues, or are they just frustrated in the moment? They've had an argument with their spouse and they want to talk to somebody about it. Who knows? But I would say that easily the biggest issue I see in relationships is communication. Like, they either don't do it or they're not very good at it. And I mean, I've been guilty of that plenty in the past. I think there again, like, I don't think a lot of people are good at this, but you could be if you listen to these words from your dad, who also isn't great at it. But I'm listening to people who are better at it, and I'm working on it. I am. I don't know if you guys notice this, but I'm trying very hard these days to, like, if you're in your emotions, you're in your feelings, you're very upset about something, the first thing I do is try to take the temperature of the room down a little bit. Like, okay, let's just calm down. Like, I'm not shouting at you. Can you not shout at me? Like, I'll listen to you, but say it in a calm tone of voice. Step one, just like get a deep breath, get somebody to relax a little bit. Okay. Maybe then they're not going to come in as hot, and it'll be easier for you to listen to what they have to say. But in any case, like, it's hard. It's really hard, especially when somebody's upset with something that you did, whether you meant to do something that hurt their feelings or not. They feel hurt by something that happened, and they're going to let you know about it. And 95% of the time, they're not going to be real calm while they do it, because confrontation's difficult for all of us. So usually people have to be pretty heated before they're going to be willing to even engage in it. So I'll tell you this, as easy as it is to succumb to it and to get heated yourself, which you've seen me do plenty of times, I've done it. And as easy as it is, and as justified as you feel in reacting the way you are reacting, it is not productive. It won't help. Sorry. I wish there was an easier answer for you, but there isn't. It's just hard to do that. But if you can master your emotions, if you can be like, okay, take yourself out of that situation for a minute. Just take a deep breath. You don't have to respond to everything instantly and super fast. Take a deep breath and be like, this person's in their feelings. They're upset right now. I may not be able to make the situation better, but I can almost certainly make it worse with how I react right now. If I just take a deep breath and I'm like, I'm not going to let myself get heated. I'm going to let them get this off their chest. Maybe ask some questions if there's something you don't understand, but like, let them have their moment. Let them get it off their chest. And, worst case scenario, if you're like, I can't respond well to this, like, this is completely unfair. I'm being painted into a corner here. I'm like being mischaracterized. That's not what I said. I didn't do the thing. Whatever the case, just be like, hey, look, I've heard you. I get what you're saying. Is it okay if I just take some time, think about this, and I'll come back and we can finish this conversation in a little bit. I want to make sure I'm calm. It may give you some time to cool off. Like, I think it's going to be a much more productive conversation if we can just take a few minutes and come back to this. I've heard what you said. I'm not diminishing it. I'm not saying it's not important. But because it's important, I want to make sure that we get it right. Like, I think if you approach it that way, most of the time you're going to get a better reaction. Or at least you've set the table to not make it worse. Now, on the other hand, if you react the way that it's so easy to react and so tempting to react, and you get just as mad as they are, there's only one way that conversation ends. With both of you even more mad and even more stewing over it. This has been it's a lifetime of hard lessons talking right now, buddy, because this is not something I've ever excelled at. My default setting is, oh, you're coming at me hot, I'm going to come back at you twice as hot. Because now I'm indignant that you're attacking me. How dare you? I can promise you this, it hasn't won a whole lot of arguments, even if I was right. Doesn't matter. The way you handle it is as important as being right or wrong. Maybe more so. So, at any rate, this is like quintessential old man shouting at cloud stuff. I'm making you aware of issues that I haven't mastered yet so that you can start practicing how to do it better at a much younger age. I promise you it doesn't get easier to confront these things the older you get. But I've made a commitment. I'm going to try to keep learning as long as I'm alive, and I'm going to keep trying to shave the rough spots off for as long as I can. And so I'm challenging you guys to do the same as younger and more pliable people. You can learn these lessons before they cost you. So, at any rate, to put a nice bow on things, when things are getting emotional, it's probably not the right moment to just go completely robot factual on people, okay? You gotta get the temperature taken down of the room before any of that stuff matters. So you guys can call me on this. I'm working on it. It's not easy for me, but I want you to work on it too, which is give people some space. Try to take the temperature of the room down a little bit, get things a little bit calmed down, but give people their moment to let them get things off their chest. You don't have to respond instantly. You don't have to get defensive. It's easy to do it. It's understandable. But the pro tip is if you can avoid it, you're usually going to get better outcomes. So it takes more effort on your part. I'm not going to lie. But do you want the outcome you want? Do you want to have a shot at getting the outcome you want? Well, if you do, maybe it's worth the extra effort. So, and here's the even better thing. Here's the even better pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Your relationships with people will be so much better if you're good at that. If you can get good at that, the better you get at being a communicator and being a trusted confidant, which is how people will see you if you get good at this, that will pay so many dividends in every facet of your life. Okay, your relationships with other people, friends, spouses, siblings, parents, cousins, aunts, uncles, all of them will be better. Your professional relationships will all be better. Your relationships with customers will all be better. Just like if you can master this skill, you're mastering a skill that very, very few people can master. So, or very, very few people do master. Anyone can, not everyone does. So, communication is king, folks. Take these lessons, write this one down. I love you very much. I hope it helps you. I hope you take it to heart. And, let me know. Love you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.